Welcome to 15 And, where we grow through the transformative stories and principles from the Bible. I hope you enjoy this teaching. I hope you share it with others. And I hope you go to 15and.org, click the Donate Now button, and support this mission. I had coached a business owner years ago, and I was so surprised by a couple of her comments. It came up just in an informal way. We were talking about parenting, and she volunteered. I'm not a Christian, but I made my kids go to youth group. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. Why did you do that? And she said, well, because my thought was if they could build friends there, and not that their lives are perfect either, but that the problems that they would go through and experience would be different than if they didn't have those kind of friendships. You know, I'm not naive. I know they struggle too, but there'd be a different quality of struggle. And now she's in a place where one of her kids joined a movement that they were a part of, like for youth groups, and sponsors her child because he is a part of this, going out and making disciples in schools. And I just thought it was hilarious because here's what she appreciated. She was obsessed with it. We talked about it a ton, helped her with it as a leader. She champions it still when we send out communication around this culture. She knew that it would have a dramatic impact on her kids' lives if she could think and be intentional and thoughtful about the kind of relationships they were forming, who they were exposed to. Now, the series we're in is called Be the Tree. We're just stating outright that the Bible is amazing to take us to, like a portal, experience the voice of God, the Word of God. But not all of the Bible is equally valuable. There are passages and places that we find things that are of immense value. If we were in a place that we had to make hard decisions, a lot of times like they are with Bible translations, you're not going to get something translated of lower value than something that would have greater value. You'd be able to make the decision. I'm going to get John translated. I'm not so worried about Ruth. Ruth's great story, but if I've got to choose which one, I'm going to choose John. So the thesis of this series is just these, for me, test it out for yourself, are 4 core paradigms that have changed everything. For me to really be able to understand what we looked at last time in Psalms 1, that we are like trees planted by streams of water. How does it happen in our lives that we have a place that fruit is yielding in its season, that the leaf doesn't wither, that we prosper? So what I want to do is help you understand what follows what we looked at last time. To be the tree, first and foremost, we said is that insecure leaders are ruining the world. We're going to lead for impact, not validation. That we're driven by this need to want to comfort our self-doubts. And so very often the things that we do for our own validation. And we want to switch and live on a different path where we lead for impact. Yes, we want to get something from it. We're not 100% altruistic, but we're more about what we give to it than get from it. Now, if it were that easy, that we would be done. But to be the tree and to continue forth is going to be it means that you're going to be in places that you're going to lead for impact, not validation, that you're giving something. You're giving even though it all doesn't make sense. I mean, if you've never felt bewildered, if you've never felt confused, if you've never felt doubt, if you've never felt tired, if you've never lost heart, if you've never had to muster up energy, or if you've never felt deflated, I don't relate to that at all. There's no part of my life that I would say everything that is happening that is good and from God just happens. It doesn't work that way. Instead, God uses us, works through us to build. We have to do our part. And what we learn in Lead for Impact or Validation is that, yes, we can work on our motive, and that's essential. But what follows that is the work that we actually do. We do it for impact, not validation. But what are we doing? We're building. We're building. Now, years ago, I was a substitute teacher. I don't remember the time frame, a year and a half, something like that. And it was a wild experience to be in so many different classrooms because some days I was the teacher. I carried the weight from 2nd grade to 12th grade. Some days I assisted the teacher. You were the intervention specialist. So just by nature of the way I'm wired up, I needed the cash. You literally would wake up at like 4:45, you'd check the computer, and you'd try to grab a job as quick as you could. It was a game. If you slept in, you'd miss grabbing the day's job. So I'm booking myself out a lot, making sure I can get paid. So I was in tons of different classrooms. I saw so many different teachers up close. And really, you had 3 teachers. Now there's a gradient scale here, but I'm going to paint out 3 stereotypical pictures. 1, on one extreme, the person who has just given up. They're just done, fried, exhausted, pretty sure a little bit of bourbon in the drawer, pull that out, take a little sip, find a way to keep going. Nothing about the experience matters. They're not in a place that they're really paying attention. And how does that affect the classroom? The kids are crazy. It's constant threatening, sending people to the principal, some protesting. Like, it doesn't matter the age, because I saw 2nd through 12th grade up close. Insane how the kids acted when the teacher was done. And shockingly, there was more of those than you would think. Now, who I saw the most of, we'll just call this the mediocre middle. You know, they were trying. God bless them. They were trying. They wanted to take the class somewhere. It wasn't really clear where they wanted to take the class, but they wanted to take the class somewhere. And they were trying to do it in such a way that they would bring everybody along. But, it just wasn't buttoned up at the edges. It just wasn't finished. It wasn't sharp. It wasn't to that point that it was really thought through. And it honestly didn't matter about age. It had nothing to do with age. It was just the mediocrity of trying for something, but not really leading it with all your effort to get there. And then there was a third kind of teacher. Rare, very, very rare. But when you saw it, it was awesome. It was like magical. They so clearly knew the lesson. They so clearly knew the experience they wanted the kids to have. They so clearly knew how to run the room. And the kids had been trained in it. Doesn't matter the age. Got to go to the bathroom? There's a process or a system for that. This teacher had a vision for how this class would work. And it was often a she. And she led with that vision and had all kinds of trained procedures for how this class is going to work. And the kids were amazing. The kids were amazing. Her connection to the kids' connection to each other. It was a stunning experience to watch this play out over and over and over again. Even though it was rare, I saw these 3 teachers over and over and over again. So what are we building? I want to show you what that teacher did that was so brilliant. It's the same thing that the great football coaches do. I'm hearing it talked about now, even though it's a little painful. It's the same thing great leaders do over and over and over again. What are we building? So the second core paradigm that I want to give you that builds on lead for impact or validation is out of 1 Corinthians 13:13. I'm going to read to you out of the New Living Translation. These 3 things will last forever. 3 things will last forever. Faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. So Paul is saying something radical here. There are 3 things that are going to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. He says, faith, hope, and love last forever. There is this idea that, like, you'll hear sometimes, And we're going to do a series on Revelation, but like what's like the end of it all? And that we're all going to float around and sing worship music. And if you don't like a big church service, you're going to hate heaven. That sounds horrible. Now, I like a big church service, but if that's all I'm doing, where's the adventure? Where's the growth? Where's the deep joy, the laughter? Like, I want to float on a cloud for a while. That sounds so peaceful and restful. I don't do any problems here. Peace, But over some point of time, at some point, what am I giving myself to? What am I building? Now, whether you even track with that or not, what I am biblically convinced of, and I want you to go search it out for yourself, is that there are only 3 things that matter that you put your energy to. There are only 3 things that are going to last forever. Everything else is going to fade, burn up, depending on what New Testament passage you're reading. But they're often saying in different ways, almost nothing matters. It's going to burn up. It's going to fade. What does matter? Faith, hope, and love. What we build in regards to that goes on and on and on and on and on. So here's what I want to do. I want to teach you how to do that. Now, to teach you how to do that, first off, I wanted to have some little fun and just say, look, what that teacher did is not an anomaly in the sense that it has to be the unique person that teacher was, the unique football coach that person is, the unique leader that person is. Let me just break it down for you. This is just a pattern. This is out of Exodus 18. Jethro and Moses. Moses is getting burned out. He's doing tons of work. And Jethro wants him to be in a place that Israel can keep hearing God's direction. That's the vision. So what does Jethro do? He gives Moses a system. He wants him to have tiers of leaders over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. It's a relational breaking down so that everybody's got a part that they fit into. It's a structure and a system. What's the result of that? People get what they need. Real quick. Vision, faith, systems, hope, connection, love. Paul said 3 things matter: faith, hope, and love. That's what lasts forever. That's what we build on. We are builders. What do we put ourselves to? Now, when he used that, I want you to understand this. This is really cool. The Greeks had a model that a culture was built on 3 foundations: pistis, elpis, apotheia. Faith, hope, and apathy is where we get the word. So for the Greeks, remember, the Greeks were tragic. Their stories didn't end well. That was the way they thought about art and literature. And for them, the answer when you're suffering is to emotionally remove yourself and get distanced. So Paul took what was a common model. A city sits on 3 foundations: pistis, elpis, apotheia, and switched the last one. We're not emotionally distanced. He made it love. Faith, hope, love. Now here's the problem. Everybody would love to start with love, wouldn't we? Wouldn't it feel nice to just skip to love? Love doesn't envy. Love isn't proud. It's long-suffering. Like, can I just click a switch and go there? I would love to. It would feel good. It would feel amazing. It would resolve so many things. But yet it doesn't work that way. There's a reason they're in this order: faith, pistis, pisteo. The Greek word there, they argue about this in the New Testament because it's not really clear. What saves us? Is it our faith in Jesus? Our faith in who God is, or is it God's faith in us? There's places in the texts where it goes both ways. Well, the Greek for the word faith in the classical Greek was about a loyalty. It's both. I can't have faith in God unless God gives me faith. Faith is a gift received. You know this. Basic New Testament stuff, we just never think about it. God gives me the gift of faith. I give faith back to God and to what I'm building in the world. So what's Moses doing? Moses has the audacity to believe that they've left Egypt and they're going to have a new world and a new society. He is building something. Elpis, hope. Hope doesn't mean, I really hope this happens. I'm going to flip the coin in the wishing well and be like, yes, please let this happen. When I see the lotto get really big and a lot of people are in line at the grocery store, it's that wishing well. That's not hope. They hope they win the lottery. That's not what this Greek word meant. This Greek word meant, I am assured this is going to happen, even though it's not yet real. So I act. It came from when Zeus opened up Pandora's box. There was a goddess in there, Elpis. She went and made things that were wrong right. It's not just I wish this would happen. It is, I'm convinced this will happen, so this is how I'm going to behave. I mean, this is what it means to build. Some of you are building a family. I'm at the later stages with the kids being older now, and I'm at the place that I can see the vision, the faith that I had, that I would have a lifelong adult relationship with them, the hope, the actions I took as a result of that, and a lot of that was systems and structure I put in place, what time I come home, how I come home, all thought through and intentional, so that what? There is love, there is connection. So what Paul did was revolutionary. He's like, hey, they build on these three foundations. Let me tell you, these three foundations are the only thing that matter. Same thing happens in Joshua 3-4. Now again, go through the Bible, look for this pattern. Why does it matter, Chris, if this pattern? Why are you so excited about this? Because if you know this pattern, you know what to do in any given moment to build. I lead for impact, not validation. What do I do next? I build. Joshua 3-4. They had a vision to enter the promised land. What was the systems or the structure? What was the elpis? What was the hope? The priests carry the ark, stand in the river. They build a 12-stone memorial. They are putting structures and systems in place. Then the nation crosses together. There's a shared monument for future generations that unites them. Love. Nehemiah, you look through the 2-6 especially, there's a vision. We're going to remove disgrace by restoring the wall. What's the system or the structure? Each family repairs their own section. They have tools in hand and they have weapons in the other as conflict starts to emerge. And then through that side-by-side labor, they form a community that stays resilient. Matthew 10, Jesus sends out the 12. There's a vision. The kingdom of heaven is near. What are the systems and structure? He gives them specific systems and structure. Travel light, heal the sick, shake the dust off your feet if they don't receive you. He's training them. And he sends them out by two. They're paired together to develop and grow into this connection. And he trains them on what to do to deepen hospitality with the locals. Matthew 28, the Great Commission, as you might know it, the vision, make disciples of all nations, systems and structure. Baptize, teach them to obey. Connection, Jesus says, I'm with you always. Acts 2, when the church is breaking out, there's a vision that they would live as spirit-filled witnesses. You see it right in the passage, 42-47. The systems start to emerge. It's the rhythmic practices. They're devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching. They're breaking bread. They're praying together. And then the connection verse right at the end of that passage, they hold all things in common. Incredible. Incredible. Acts 6, you see the same thing. How do we keep speaking the word of God without neglecting the widows? The system is put in place that there'd be deacons, spirit-filled leaders, so the apostles could stay in mission. And what happens at the end of that passage, it says it. There's basically ethnic distinction resolves as both Greek and Hebrew-speaking believers are honored. Look, the reason I'm so excited about this is because it helps me know exactly what to do. I'm going to keep going because it's so powerful. Acts 13, 1-3, the church sends missionaries. The Holy Spirit's call to their lives to spread the message. The systems and structure, what do? They fast and pray, they lay on hands, and they define sending. And what happens as a result? Barnabas and Saul, they're backed by that home church. There's a deep connection. They go out. 1 Corinthians 12-14, the vision is a body where every person is serving Christ. And then Paul starts to break down the systems and the structure. What's it look like to have orderly worship? 2 or 3 at most, he says. There's some interpretation in this. And then what does he get to in chapter 13? It's the love chapter. I mean, we looked at this in the Crazy World Sane Mind series. It's the tabernacle blueprint. God wants to dwell among his people. There's detailed ways to do it, systems and structure, and then as a result, there's presence. Look, I want you to search this out for your own life, because if you grasp this, it completely changes how you live. In what way? You lead for impact, not validation. Second core paradigm. You have a plan for what to do. You have a plan. I'm leading somewhere. I'm doing something. I want you to look at Hebrews 11 with me, because this idea keeps deepening, and it's super fun to see how powerful faith. Let's start at verse 1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. Okay, so faith is, and you may know it as the substance of things hoped for, that same word, elpis. I am convinced an unseen reality can become true. I can have a lifelong marriage of great health. I'm convinced of that. So I elpis because I hope for this, I act for this, I live for this, have assurance about this, about what I do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. If you want to know what God commended people in the past for, it's this pattern. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. Whoa. Giving us a deep principle here. How does faith work? Faith is bringing something to reality that isn't seen. If you have a situation where you go through trouble with raising one of your kids, you have to be able to see a restored relationship on the other side. You got to lead for impact, not validation, not be threatened by it. But what's your plan? I'm going to lead in such a way that I have a vision for this relationship to be restored, because I see it. I'm going to live with elpis, and the result's going to be love or connection. You're in a meeting, and you're responsible, and it's boring, and the vision doesn't capture people's interest. Something has to change. It's your job in any domain you're in to receive from God the gift of faith with a vision that quickens the imagination, that makes the blood boil, that captures you to put into place the actions, elpis, that you believe it's going to happen. And it's all at the relative level of whatever the vision is for. I mean, you don't have to be so passionate and intense about small things, but the principle still works this way. It's a necessary function of leadership to see things before they are. And you see it, and you put into motion action around it, and connection results. So Hebrews 11 is so powerful because it's teaching us this principle. And then it's just driving it in. By faith, Abel did what he did. He brought God a better offering. By faith, he was commended as righteous. I'm going to just fly through some of this. Verse 5, by faith, Enoch was taken from this life. Without faith, verse 6, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, built the ark. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in the foreign country, lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. Now, here's what I want you to see, verse 10. For he was looking forward to the city with, what? Plural. Foundations, whose architect and builder is God. All of reality that we participate in, that matters at all, will be fully realized, and this is, Hebrews 11 is just driving this in. It is headed somewhere where the law of entropy doesn't work anymore. And it's thought of as this new city, and it's much more than just a literal city, but that's another idea. But as this writer, maybe it was Paul, is painting this out, he's saying, Abraham could do what he did because he knew he was headed somewhere more real, better than even the promised land. He had a vision of what was not seen. He put in motion action to do it and created a connection, a legacy of relationship post that. And what is this city built on? Scripture says in a bunch of different ways. Christ is the cornerstone of this city. Who's the architect and builder? God. There's a wall, and the wall has 12 foundations. It's the apostles. Revelation says that. Very symbolic language. But there are 3 foundations to this city: faith, hope, and love. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations. The plural foundations matters because it is this idea of faith, hope, and love. Hebrews 11:16 says they desired a better country, a heavenly one. Hebrews 12:22, you have come to Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem. Hebrews 13 says, here we have no lasting city. We're headed towards somewhere that lasts forever. What's it built on? Faith, hope, and love. Faith, hope, and love. Even in this passage here, it's talking tons about faith in 11 and 12. And then verse 13, he starts off chapter 1 and says, keep on loving your brothers and sisters. There is a plan that God uses to build. And God uses that plan to build because it's the pattern that as all things end and all things begin new, the end of time, that pattern will be evident to us. And it is your job to lock in on this plan, to receive from God the gift of faith, whatever it means to see something unseen. And it will not be easy, and it will be challenging. Just like it was for John the Baptist. He saw Jesus is the one. And then when he went to prison, he sent his disciples to say, are you the one? And Jesus said, don't fall away on account of me because it's not going like you thought. All of Hebrews 11 is driving in this idea. They saw it. They lived for it, even though it didn't happen in their lifetimes the way they thought it would. And I think what makes me so sad is because I can barely get through putting together IKEA furniture without getting frustrated, much less persevering with a vision for weeks, months, years. But I don't do it alone. And I don't do it in a place that I feel abandoned. I go to Christ for validation, like we closed last time, and say, I'm scared, I'm insecure, I'm hurt, I'm struggling, I'm losing faith. I need you to refill me so I can go back out, not lead with hype. I can honor people where they are, even in their own doubts and struggles. But I'm going to commit to the actions like this thing is going to happen and the deepening connection that results. Now, I'm so passionate about this idea. I wanted it to be in this series, the 4 core paradigms, because I want you to be able to lead your life, not that it's going to be perfect, but like the teacher that has a vision for where their family's going, where their team's going, where their organization's going, and puts the systems and structures in place to get there so the connections can deepen. But this idea is so big. Later this year, we're going to do a series just on this. And the 9 ways we can be brilliant at building healthy culture, and the 9 ways we foul it up. So I'm not going to leave you hanging on this. Here's what I would ask you to do as a result of today, though. Look through the Bible, see this pattern. Look at your life. When you hit a glitch today, tomorrow, does faith need to see? Does hope need to sweat? Does love need to stay? That's your plan. That's how you always build the right things. I hope you enjoyed this teaching from 15and. Go to 15and.org, share these resources with others, and click the Donate Now button to participate in funding this mission.